Chapter 17, page 102, Runaway. Each afternoon when Granite awoke, he looked about for Climber. And each afternoon, when Granite remembered that the young wolf was dead, sadness rushed over him. He missed his playmate with the husky face. He missed his only friend among the wolves. When Granite grew lonely, pictures of his brothers filled his head. He always saw them as small puppies, but they were puppies no more. He wondered if they raced with other dogs. When he thought of Cricket, Granite always saw the bearded stranger and shuddered. The pictures in Granite's head were fading. Each time he thought about his family, it was harder to see them. Yet his mother's face sometimes was clear. It filled Granite's thoughts when he drank from a still pool and saw a dog in the water. As he stared at the dog's blue eyes, it was like looking into his mother's face. At such times he remembered feeling safe and warm and loved. When Granite wondered if his mother had new babies, he felt cold and lost. Granite's feelings were all mixed up, because he loved Snowdrift too. He had been with the wolves for so long that often he forgot that he was a dog. With Climber gone, the wolves would not let him forget. No matter how hard Granite tried, he could not please Ebony. He was too slow to keep up with the long-legged wolves, and when the pack chased game, he often got in the way. Ebony never bit him, but the big leader often snorted with disgust at the dog's blunders. Breeze ignored him, and Strider and Romer punished him for every mistake he made, and often for things he did not do. Only Snowdrift was kind. One day, while the pack slept in the gray dusk of a winter afternoon, Granite ran away. During the night's hunt, he had stumbled in front of Romer, and the black wolf became angry and nipped Granite's shoulder. The day before, Strider had shoved him hard, sending him tumbling down a snowbank. Suddenly, it all seemed too much for the dog to bear. He looked around. Snowdrift was curled beside him with her tail over her nose. Her back was toward him, and she whined in her sleep. Perhaps she was dreaming of her lost pups. It was a mournful sound, and it made Granite feel even sadder. He got up quietly and crept across the snow-covered rocks and into the trees. As soon as he was out of sight, he began to run. Granite didn't know where he was running. He only knew that he never wanted to see Romer and Strider again. Granite could not run as fast as the wolves, but he could run a long time without tiring. He ran and ran. He ran so far that he passed the last of the spots where Ebony or Snowdrift had marked the trail. He ran through the dark until he reached country where the pack had never come. Still Granite ran on. Above him, the sky was filled with blazing lights. The exploding colors raced across the sky and lifted his spirits. He felt almost happy. His tail rose in the air, and there was no one to nip his neck for the offense. When Granite grew tired, he found a large, bushy spruce that had fallen across the ground. It was still fresh, and the dense branches formed a safe hiding place. When the dog crawled beneath them, no one could see him. Making a warm bed, Granite dug into the snow. He had not dug far before he smelled mouse. During the winter, mice stay below the snow and often don't bother to tunnel into the earth. With hopes of food dancing in his head, Granite scratched down to the soil. The mouse was gone. In the place where the mouse had been, Granite found the creature's winter store of fat, white roots. He was so weary that instead of hunting, he ate them. The dog slept heavily and woke to the dim light of a winter day. The light was so brief that he stayed in his hiding place until dark returned. It was time to hunt. Granite thought about how he would get his dinner. Without help, there was no way for him to bring down any large game. He trotted with his nose close to the snow, hoping to come across a few mice. Granite was so intent on the search that he almost missed his big chance. The air was still and no wind passed along the scent. But when Granite raised his head, he saw an enormous flock of ptarmigan feeding in the snow. In their white winter feathers, they looked like snowballs strewn across the clearing. The dog got down on his stomach and squirmed slowly across the ground, just as he and Climber used to do when scaring ducks. Granite was so careful that it took him an age to move close. Once he was near the flock, he waited and waited, his muscles tense. Then he sprang. Wings whirred about him, and the birds burst into flight. But one ptarmigan had not been quick enough. Granite's dinner lay trapped beneath his paws, and he was happy to get it. For a few days, Granite did well on his own. He was no longer the puppy who could not hunt. Besides an occasional ptarmigan or grouse, he ate mice and snowshoe hares and occasionally some dry grass or frozen berries. He was never stuffed, but he had enough to eat. At first, Granite gloried in his freedom. He played in the snow. He scattered sleeping birds. He ran across fields and through forests. He hunted when he was hungry and rested when he was tired. He no longer had to cower before other wolves, but walked proudly with his tail held high. Yet as the days passed, the dog began to yearn for company. He thought about Snowdrift's kindness. He thought of Ebony's wisdom and the stern but fair way he directed life in the pack. He thought of the excitement of the hunt, when all the wolves worked together like a single animal. A black cloud of loneliness began to grow inside him. One night, Granite came across a caribou haunch buried beneath the snow. The meat was hard and cold, but it filled his stomach. He had been gnawing on it for a long time when a howl rose in the dark sky, held steady for a moment, then wavered and fell. The fur over Granite's shoulders stood up. Ever since he left Ebony's country, he had been aware that there were wolves somewhere about. The trails he ran across were marked with a scent he did not know. That meant he was in the land of another pack, for each wolf pack has its own territory. A second howl echoed through the night. Then a third wolf took up the cry. As the wolves drew near, the calls grew louder. Granite knew that he had uncovered a food cache left by the pack of strangers. As the first wolf came over the crest of the hill, Granite dropped the bone he had been chewing and stood up. A gray wolf with a black face ran down the slope, followed by 3 others. 2 were brown and the third was black. The gray wolf was almost as large as Ebony, and his tail waved in the air.